Now, from CBS News Miami, this is Facing South Florida with Jim DeFede.
Welcome to Facing South Florida. I'm Jim DeFede. Last month, the Democratic leader of the Florida Senate, Jason Pizzo, announced he was leaving the Democratic Party because, in his words, the Democratic Party in Florida was dead. He is registered now as an NPA, and you will hear in a moment it was the first step in his plan to run for governor. I started, though, by asking him why he switched parties.
It just felt like the right and natural thing to do, and I thought I'd be sort of happier, and I find myself being very happy. I think people are, generally speaking, I think even from the Republican side and from the Democratic side, just sort of unhappy and kind of just angry at each other or angry at themselves on a lot of issues. Not a lot's getting done. It's been rather disruptive, the whole partisanship thing, and very polarizing. And so, thinking back on all the issues that were most important to me in our district, they weren't partisan, whether they were tragedies or triumphs. They had nothing to do with political parties, and I think that was just holding everything up. So I made the move.
I guess one of the criticisms that I often hear is, in leaving the party, you can express a view that you're doing it for the reasons you're now saying, the fact that you feel happier, that you feel that you don't need to be partisan on a lot of these issues. But why trash the Democrats on the way out the door? Why declare the Democratic Party dead? Why give them a parting shot as you leave?
Well, it just really, just to keep a clear conscience about how I felt. There was so much, repeated sort of being careful and the pressure of saying the right thing or not offending this person or this group, or instead of just being, grown-ups and just being rational and reasonable. And I had, committed and performed on trying to raise the resources and the attention and the legitimacy and thinking back on it and knowing that, I was at the precipice of probably, having to get into a very large commitment, both of time and resources on behalf of the party or the party, name attached to me in whatever I may do next. And, I thought about it and it just wasn't, it's not a good investment.
Where do you think the Democratic Party has gone wrong in the state of Florida?
I the same things that I've said, in speeches and on the floor. And listen, I'm very sort of, equitable with my treatment on both sides. It's, I've said, and, I think you've said and alluded to the same. It's not really Republican versus Democrat anymore. It's, you see, especially in this session, this past year, it's Republican versus Republican. And on the Democratic side, it's taking the bait and on issues that are obviously meant to distract and be disruptive and very loud, but not very productive, instead of just sort of focusing on really basic things. So, I've had a number of bills over the years that the first or second year they wouldn't hear them, and then they would pass 3, 4, 5, 6 years later, with a Republican's name on it. And I think, again, I go back to the parts of this public service sort of, part of my life, whether it was Surfside collapsing and needing condo reform, whether it was the unemployment crisis, and whether it's just people calling for basic needs and necessities and services. We don't ask what their party affiliation is. And yet people in the party, people that are supposed to be public servants first and serving the public, are just really sort of angry and exclusive to, either this is how you can, what you conform to, or else. And I can't be threatened by or else.
So are you running for governor? That seems to be what you're alluding to when you talk about, the next steps I may take. Are you planning on running for governor?
Yeah. Yes, I am.
Okay. And what kind of a vision do you want to lay out as part of your candidacy? Why should people care about what you want, or let me rephrase that. Tell me what it is exactly that your vision would be in terms of what you would do as governor that we're not seeing today.
So I've encountered tens of thousands of people since I first started serving in office, again, through good times and through bad times. And I come back to the common denominator. It's what's really important today, but what's also most important for the future. And and it really hasn't gotten a lot of attention, and I'm concerned that it needs more attention. But the current budget that we have in the state of Florida, how we spend, what we spend money on, we're heading right to a pretty serious deficit. We've beaten our chest with $16 and $15.5 billion surpluses, but a lot of ARP money. but we need somebody who can balance a checkbook, who understands finance, not just economic theory, who's concerned about infrastructure and resiliency and the environment and education and all of these things that are top of mind for people, that are just trying to keep a roof over their head, keep their kids clothed and educated. And it's not rooted in either the rhetoric that the Republicans want to push. And honestly, Jim, it's not really helpful, and it's not productive for the, visceral reaction that Democrats have to every little step or statement that the Republicans make. They want people that says, listen, how am I going to pay my taxes? How am I going to pay my mortgage or my rent? Is my environment, when I flush my toilet, will it work? When it rains, is it going to inundate me with flooding? And can I really even afford to live here with property insurance? And here's the bottom line. There are like 4 or 5 of us out of 160 elected representatives, and I have sympathy for a lot of them, but there are very few of us who don't need to take a $50,000, $100,000 check from a donor to a PAC to tell us how we should vote and what we should think. And I'm sorry that we're in this situation, but that's where we are. That's really where we are. It's the largest donors, it's the largest special interests and lobbyists that control the destiny and the quality of service that comes from a lot of our elected officials. That's the bottom line. I hate that we're here, but I'm really concerned if me or somebody like me is not in the mix. And that's what's most concerning, because I'm doing this now for my kids. I'm doing it. I realize I've been doing it the whole time for my kids, and I'm doing it for our community. And most of the people, you can rattle off the people that want to be critical of the move that I made and the position I've taken, the things that I've said. There's an interest that's not clear altruistic public service rooted behind whatever the sentiment of those statements are, I assure you.
So are you planning on self-financing your campaign? Or are you saying you're not going to take PAC money or other outside dollars?
It'll be private. I'll raise it myself. But here's the thing. I have on many occasions been presented with, a large check, and then someone tries to make some sort of position attendant to it or attach some kind of expectation, and I hand it right back. I think I have a running list of the checks I've handed back. I took a position on the ballot amendment as it relates to the legalization of marijuana, really for decriminalization of marijuana. I got a check from Trulieve and I gave it right back. I didn't take any money from them. So I'm going to be on the right position that I think is the right position based on the merit of the position and not based on a donation. And it sucks that we're here, Jim, but that's the reality.
Can an independent win in Florida? I guess that's the real question. Democrats believe that if you were to get into the race, that you would be a spoiler, meaning that Democrats would never have a chance of defeating a Republican.
Well, 2 things. One, if they think that I'm a spoiler, then they're concerned about the merit of their own message and the strength of their own message or policy or whatever it is. But really, the reality is that there are a lot of really, really excited people and groups about my position, about what I said and where I am. I hear it every single day in droves about, listen, this is where happy people, almost should be. And I've been in 2 competitive races. I unseated a sitting state senator in my first race. Remember, it was not a closed primary, so it was open, which meant Republicans, NPAs, and Democrats voted in that race. And I just went to a general this past November where Trump won by 3.5 points, and I won by 16. People need to really understand, I know you do, NPAs decide who wins, elections in this state. There's 3.7 million of them.
What is it about your story that you want people to know as they begin deciding whether or not to support you?
As a son and as a father, I've been just so focused and concerned about the well-being of our community. And it's not rooted in partisanship. It's just rooted in public service and doing the right thing, and just trying to just be reasonable with people and bring people together and build coalitions and understanding and relationships based on the work that has to get done and not on partisanship. And I really honestly feel, since I've made this announcement and since I'm sort of forging forward, independently, it's been really well received by people that are like, yeah, we want less focus on social issues, whether it's the left or the right, whether it's the reaction or it's the policy, and they want people that are just going to be grown-ups in their room, that are responsible and reasonable. And I, as a dad, I got to be honest, my kids want to live in Florida. They want to marry and raise their kids and have a future. I'm a former prosecutor, and one of the things that I think has been most disappointing in public service is I could never say the things that get said, on a Senate floor in a committee meeting in a courtroom. be held in contempt. You had to be prepared. You had to be direct. You had to get to the point, and you had to be most concerned about justice and victims and closure in the community. And I think if you take that mindset to public service, it'll serve you well. And I wish others would too. But until there's somebody else, and unless there's somebody else that comes forward, I'm the guy.
When we come back, we have an emotional end to the story we've been reporting for years. The story of Tristan Murphy and how the legislature is reforming how the mentally ill are treated within the criminal justice system. Plus, we look at the new condo bill that legislators believe will bring relief to those who are struggling with higher assessments. Stay with us.